We're back in Ephesians chapter 1, and we're sitting somewhere around verse 6 of chapter 1. If you've been following me as we've been going through, we've been looking at the blessings that we have in union with Jesus from the Father, and hopefully responding to the Father by giving him thanks and just recognizing how lovely he is. Last session I talked about the fact that we needed to come to terms with the heart of God for us, and his grace and his kindness and his goodwill toward us, and see it for the beauty of what it actually is. If we think about him, the fact that he's predestined us to sonship, and that this sonship is in his Son, and if we think that his love for us is a weak thing or a small thing, we will think that sonship doesn't mean very much. Because what is sonship if a father doesn't love his son or daughter? There is a love that God has which is exceptional and different, and I've already spoken about that a little bit in an earlier session. And the wonder of that love and the heart of God toward us really needs to be explored by us, and this is what I talked about in the last session. Verse 6, which reads, "To the praise of the glory of his grace, which he freely bestowed on us in the beloved." It's talking about how we need to really focus on the grace of God, the lovely, freely giving heart of God toward us in predestinating us, if there's such a word as predestinating, his predestination of us to sonship in his Son. And Paul stops to just for a moment focus on that and say, oh, this is a wonderful thing, this is glorious, this grace that he freely gives. I used the word lavished before. It's actually a word that's used in verse 8, but I can't help but go there because of the sense of the riches of the grace of God toward us in his Son. Verse 6 finishes and he says, I'll read verse 6 again, "To the praise of the glory of his grace, which he freely bestowed on us." And then it says, "in the beloved." I wanted to stop for a while and just talk about that phrase, "in the beloved." In your Bible it may say, "in the one he loves." This is a description of the Son of God as far as Father is concerned. Father simply calls Jesus in this sense just the beloved. This isn't a unique thing of the Father. We need to come to terms with the love that there is within God from the Father to the Son and the Son to the Father. Because if we don't understand that love, if we're not open to understanding the richness of it, we will have a smaller picture of what we've been included in. Sometimes we can think about the relationship between the Father, Son, and the Son as simply a theological mystery, and we'll sort of say, oh my goodness, the Trinity, that's hard to explain. But what we need to do is to look to what God reveals about the relationships that are within God, how God describes them, where he starts to talk about right from the start. He talks about Jesus as his Son. We find that at the baptism, where in Matthew chapter 3 verse 17, Jesus is baptized and suddenly a voice comes out of heaven, and the voice doesn't say, "You got that right, son. Yes, it was the right thing to do to get baptized." It says this is my beloved Son. With him I am well pleased." And can you picture the scene? Jesus as a man, just looking like a man, being baptized by John, him coming out of the water, and suddenly there's a voice from heaven, and the voice says, "This is my beloved Son. With him I am well pleased." People were getting baptized because they knew that they were sinners. And John recognized that Jesus actually shouldn't be baptized by him. In fact, that John should be baptized by Jesus. And Jesus says, let's fulfill all righteousness, because God was calling all men to be baptized. And Jesus, of course, stepped into the waters of baptism on our behalf. He went there as a man who had come to identify with and connect himself up with the sins of the world. And so we find that Jesus is responding to his Father that by being actually baptized on behalf of us. He identifies, he makes connection with sinful humanity by being even immersed himself, the one who did not sin. But the Father's response is, this is my beloved Son. Understand, this is my beloved Son. And, you know, Jesus was aware of this, the fact that he was the Father's beloved. In John chapter 3, verse 35, Jesus says to the people around him, he says, the Father loves the Son and has given all things into his hands. This is a situation where Jesus is talking about the authority that he has. But he wants them to understand that there is an authority that he has from the Father, and it comes out of the fact that the Father loves him. That was an amazing thing. In John chapter 14, Jesus, in verse 31, Jesus says, but so that the world may know that I love the Father, I do exactly as the Father commanded me. So what we find is that this love from the Father is reciprocated from the Son. And he wanted the world to know that the Son loves the Father, even as but before he has made it clear that the Father loves the Son. In John chapter 17, there's this lovely section, and in John 17, John is talking to the Father. Sorry, not John. Jesus is talking to the Father, and he's talking to the Father about us, about those disciples that were with him, about those who would believe on his name, and that includes us. I want to read this section because it combines a whole bunch of things that are important for us to take hold of. Verse 20 of John 17 says, Jesus says, I do not ask on behalf of these alone. In other words, these disciples that are around me. I do not ask on behalf of these alone, but for those also who believe in me through their word, that they may all be one, even as you, Father, are in me and I in you, that they also may be in us, so that the world may believe that you sent me. So we find that Jesus, before going to the cross, is praying to the Father about what he is wanting. And of course, what he's wanting is what the Father wants, is that we would all live in the Father and live in the Son, and the Father and the Son would live in us. And it's a lovely picture. But he goes on, verse 22, the glory which you have given me, I have given to them, that they may be one, just as we are one. And so you discover that there is a glory that the Son has with the Father. And he's saying, I have given that to them. And why? He says, so that they may be one, just as we are one. There is something that in Jesus, as Jesus speaks to his disciples and they receive the word and they believe him, what there is there's a passing on of glory. There is a passing on of what Jesus has with the Father. There is a revelation, if you like, a revealing of Jesus's life with the Father. And he's giving it to his disciples in order that they would know what it is that the Father is giving them. And there is a glory in that. There is and this glory is a relational glory. You see, we tend to think tend to think of glory as something that belongs to a person in and of themselves. But when Jesus talks about glory, he talks about the glory that the Father gives to the Son. And he talks about the glory that the Son gives to the Father. And here he's talking about the glory that the Father has given to his Son, that he now is giving to those who receive him and believe him and hear his word. And this glory is a relational glory. It's a sonship glory. The Son's glory is that he is the Son of the Father. The Father's glory is that he is the Father of the Son. And our glory is that we share in what the Son has with the Father. We understand that a little bit when we think about the glory that our own children bring to us. If our children achieve, what happened is that we receive glory from it. When somebody says, "Oh, your kids are great, they were terrific," we go, "Thank you." And we realize that how they live actually reflects on us. And in turn, how we live reflects on them. And there is a glory that they receive from us. And here we find Jesus saying that there is a glory from the Father that the Son has, that he is actually sharing and bringing to us. I'll read it again, verse 22. "The glory which you have given me, I have given to them, that they may be one, just as we are one. I and them," this is verse 23 of John 17, "I and them, and you in me, that they may be perfected in unity, so that the world may know that you sent me and have loved them even as you loved me." Jesus is aware that there is a glory that he has, and it's got to do with the love of the Father for him. And he's saying that the world has to know that his people have been loved with the same love that Jesus has from the Father. I'll go on. "Father, I desire that they also, whom you have given me, be with me where I am, so that they may see my glory, which you have given me. For you loved me before the foundation of the world." So Jesus is talking about the fact that he wants them to be where he is. And then he refers back to the foundation of the world, that there is a glory that is fully expressed and has been expressed in the past, before the foundation of the world, and that now Jesus has come to the earth, but he's aware of the fact that he's going back to the Father, and that glory will again be manifested and made known. And he wants us, his disciples, those who believe in him, to also see this glory and to participate in it. And it has to do with love. And he goes on in verse 25, "O righteous Father, although the world hasn't known you, yet I have known you, and these have known that you sent me. And I have made your name known to them, and will make it known, so that the love with which you loved me may be in them, and I in them." This is a lovely thing. Jesus is so aware of this love that the Father has for him, and that love that he has for him is also for us, and that the glory of being loved by the Father that has always been there throughout eternity is something that we are being called into as well. And so I want to say that back to Ephesians, that when God predestines us to sonship out of love, and it is in the beloved, grace has been poured out. In the beloved, this predestination to sonship has occurred. In the beloved, he has called us and chosen us from before the foundation of the world. And in the beloved, the grace is rich, as he goes on to say in Ephesians. And this is where we find, it says, in verse 6, "To the praise of the glory of his grace, which he freely bestowed on us in the beloved, in him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses, according to the riches of his grace, which he lavished on us." What a picture. There is a grace that is just huge, that is in the beloved for us. And we need to believe in the relation that is there between the Father and the Son, and the love that's there, in order that we will understand that it has always been the Father's purpose, and it has always been the Son's purpose, that we would enter into a deep knowledge of that love and the glory that is in there between the Father and the Son. And so we find in the Beloved, we find that there is this redemption that I'll talk about in the next session. All the blessings of God are in the Beloved, and it's a wonderful context in which to know that God has brought us blessing. There is a rich place, and it's in God. There's a rich place, and it's in the relation between the Father and the Son. There is a rich place from which we have been blessed. I keep reiterating this because the relation between the Father and the Son is the place where we are blessed, and particularly in terms of what the Son has with the Father. I'll leave it there, and next session we'll have a look at verse 7. Have a good day.